I'm going to call this meeting to order. If you would follow along with the Pledge of Allegiance and followed by an invocation from Alderman Lucas. I pledge
Father God, as we come before your throne tonight, we thank you for this opportunity to come together to do the work of the city, to make Branson all that it can be. We pray your blessings over each home that's represented here and over the work that we do tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Artie. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Lucas. Howden. Here. Cooper. Milton.
Here.
Denham. LeBlanc.
Here.
Schultz.
Present.
Your Honor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Tonight, we're going to start off with a few awards. We'll start with Director Woods. Will be presenting Ben Stabo of the Public Works and Engineering Department as Employee of the Month.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. Today, Ben Stabo is being recognized for his outstanding leadership and dedication in overseeing multiple critical areas in the public works, including the FM shop, street shop, sign shop, overlay projects, and snow and emergency operations. I refer to him as the MacGyver, for those that are old enough to remember MacGyver. During a recent 6-week period, Ben stepped up to manage the FM shop in addition to his regular responsibilities as Public Works Operations Manager. With the recent retirement of the former supervisor, there was a gap created while we were waiting for his replacement to arrive. Ben took on the extra duties without hesitation, ensuring continuity and efficiency in a transitional time. Ben's proactive planning and hands-on involvement ensured the operations across the areas continued without disruption. This particular department serves fire, police, utilities, parks, public works, and many, many more, and regular maintenance and repair. Thanks to Ben's leadership, customer service saw noticeable improvements. Internal operations ran smoothly. His efforts not only improved daily operations, but also boosted employee morale and strengthened the team down there in cohesion. Ben eventually took on a remodel, also while being down there in the shop, to welcome the new fleet manager with a clean, newly refreshed shop. From maintaining safe streets, working wind, flooding, and weather events, responsive snowplow routes during inclement weather, to supporting the streets and sign shop, Ben demonstrates a commitment to service. Ben has worked for the city for over 11 years. There are not very many people I enjoy talking to and working alongside at 3 a.m. in the morning, and sometimes 24 hours at a time. But when the phone rings, I'm glad it's Ben, saying, "Boss, we have a situation. Here's the plan. I'll see you in a few minutes." I also want to thank his family, which are here today, for supporting our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week lifestyle that we ensure. He embodies the city of Branson's core values of excellence and service, setting an example for his peers throughout his initiatives, professionalism, and dedication to public service. Ben's outstanding performance across multiple divisions reflects his highest standards for municipal service. His positive influence and tireless work have never gone unnoticed, and is truly rewards this recognition tonight. Thank you, Ben.
We gotta move down this way, guys. Thank you, thank you.
Congratulations, Ben. Next, we have Fire Chief Ted Martin and the Taney County Ambulance District will present a Citizen Life-Saving Award.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. We'd like to invite some special guests down this evening from, our Walmart Supercenter on Branson Hills Parkway, if you'd all come down. With me tonight is paramedic Rick Lawler. He works for TCAT Paramedics, been there a long time, and now I think a major or just director, I don't know what something big, right? So been there forever, and appreciate his leadership and skill set with the paramedic service. For a Citizen Life-Saving Award, Joshua Brown, in recognition for your courageous act of heroism on April 25th, 2025, while working at the Branson Walmart Supercenter, you rendered aid to a customer who collapsed from sudden cardiac arrest by immediately starting CPR and using an AED to deliver 2 shocks to the patient. Your actions made a positive impact and saved the life of a fellow citizen. And I tell you that early defibrillation, early CPR makes a huge impact, and you made that happen at the Supercenter. That's not very common that you see a save for someone that falls into cardiac arrest. So you made a difference, and we thank you very much. Rick, anything else?
Wow.
I'm here to present Mr. Brown with the Taney County Ambulance District Lifesaver Award. This is a rare award. It is not easy to get. You have to literally be dead and then be brought back to life. And through swift action, Mr. Brown accomplished that. The importance of early CPR and early defibrillation cannot be overstated. If you need these interventions and you don't get them, your chances of survival drop by 10% for every minute that goes by. And your odds aren't that great to begin with, so it really counts for a lot when somebody like Mr. Brown steps up and takes the appropriate action.
Wow. You bet.
I just recognized Jimmy. So when you've lived here a long time and you start recognizing littles that are now bigs, and Jimmy's daddy was very special here in Taney County. He umpired and officiated at Branson Recplex for many years, worked at Branson Schools, and was kind of affected by ALS, and his family is thriving with his twin and his mom, and very thankful for the Brown family. So.
Very nice. Wow. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers tonight?
We do. We have 2 speakers.
2. Okay. Please note there will be a 5-minute limit on all items listed on the agenda. This is the public comment section of the Board of Aldermen meeting. At this time, the board will hear the citizens who have signed up in the order they are listed. Please note the clerk will let speakers know when they have 30 seconds left, and a notification will sound when their time is up. We ask that speakers wrap up their comments upon hearing the 30-second warning. If a speaker would like a board member to bring an item from the consent agenda down for additional discussion, please note this request during comments. Please come to the freestanding microphone to address the board. Madam Clerk, who do we have?
Our first speaker is Bobby Wydane, speaking on thank you.
Okay, you got short people here. All right, this is going to be a little backwards, but can I have the mayor, the fire chief, the police chief, and a representative from the park board or park district? All right. On behalf of Branson Fall Creek Head Start, Early Head Start, I would like to thank the mayor and Leanne Milton, the Branson Fire Department, especially the crew of Engine Number 2, the Branson Police Department K-9 Unit, Officer Jason Ward and Recon, and Cindy Shook and the Recplex staff for making our 60th anniversary bash a great time for our current and former families. It was a sunny but windy afternoon, and a great time was had by all. Okay, everybody gets a thank you now.
Thank you, Bobby. Madam Clerk?
Our final speaker is Gary Groman, speaking on, does a raising market tide really raise all ships?
Good evening. The popular adage, "a rising tide lifts all ships," is currently in vogue in Branson to promote the use of marketing funds, the vast majority of which are generated within the city of Branson and all of which are generated within the TCED, to cooperate in developing a more regional economy, primarily those outside the TCED. As an initial step, before further discussion of the merits of the rising tide theory, I would suggest that any entity outside the TCED wanting to take advantage of anything developed within the TCED do one of the following. If they can become part of the TCED, that they immediately initiate steps to do so. That would be Silver Dollar City, the expansion. This is outside the TCED. Or, if they fail in that attempt, or do not want to make an attempt, or are an entity that cannot legally become part of the TCED, such as Big Cedar, Hollister, they enter into an agreement with the TCED as permitted by Section 67.195654 of the Missouri Revised Statutes. That agreement will provide that they pay a 1% annual fee based on the value of the same type of sales taxes that are paid and collected by those shows, entertainment facilities, shops, lodging, and retail stores within the TCED. I'm talking about active marketing intended to generate business for those non-TCED entities, not a reference to them in marketing designed to bring people to Branson or the TCED. As to the merits of the principle itself, I would suggest that it does not hold true in terms of primary economic benefit in a city like Branson with a tourist-based economy. Branson, with just about 13,000 permanent residents, attracts about 8 million tourists annually. I would estimate this requires an economy capable of supporting a public infrastructure, police, fire, water, sewer, roads, etc., necessary for the combined residential and transitory tourist population of at least 100,000. The support for that infrastructure depends on the number of tourists coming to Branson and how much tax revenue they generate. That tax revenue is directly dependent, in order, on how much time they spend in Branson and how much money they spend while spending that time. And there's the rub. While the rising tide theory might hold water for situations where someone has an infinite amount of time, the average tourist on vacation in Branson has a finite amount of time. How much of that time is spent in Branson has a direct impact not only on the tax revenues Branson will receive, but the revenues that all its shows, retail stores, restaurants, attractions, etc. receives. Some might say, even though they are staying somewhere else, they will still come into Branson to eat, shop, and be entertained. That may be true, but remember the saying, time is money. One thing is obvious. If they're staying outside of Branson, they will not be paying the 4% lodging tax. Another is equally obvious. Neither the city of Branson or any of its shows, attractions, shops, restaurants, etc. makes a dime in taxes or revenues from a tourist not spending time with them. It's a simple question with an obvious answer. Will the ROI for the city of Branson and its shows, attractions, shops, and restaurants be greater for money spent in marketing the city of Branson and its shows, attractions, shops, and restaurants, or entities outside the city limits? Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Next is the consent agenda. Are there any items that any member of the board or staff would like to have moved down from the consent agenda to ask additional questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, I would like item number 6 to be removed from the consent agenda and placed as the second item on the regular agenda.
Madam Clerk, would you please read the items on the consent agenda as amended?
Your Honor, the items on the consent agenda are as follows: approval of the Board of Aldermen minutes for May 13th, 2025 special meeting and May 13th, 2025 regular meeting. Acknowledgement of disbursements for April 17th, 2025 through May 15th, 2025. Final reading of Bill Number 6544, an ordinance approving the development agreement for the expansion of the Butterfly Palace between the city and RBD Marketing LLC and authorizing the mayor to execute the documents related thereto. Final reading of Bill Number 6545, an ordinance approving the petition to establish the Butterfly Palace Community Improvement District and establishing the Butterfly Palace Community Improvement District. Final reading of Bill Number 6546, an ordinance approving the cooperative agreement with the Butterfly Palace Community Improvement District relating to the development agreement for the expansion of the Butterfly Palace and authorizing the mayor to execute the documents related thereto. Final reading of Bill number 6548, an ordinance approving payment of incentive fees to ASM Global, formerly SMG Branson Convention Centers Management Company, in accordance with the terms of the management services contract. Final reading of Bill number 6549, an ordinance approving streetscape project funding contribution agreement with the historic downtown Branson Community Improvement District and authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement. And final reading of Bill number 6550, an ordinance amending Chapter 18 Buildings and Building Regulations, adding Section 18-10 Building Structure Demolition of the Branson Municipal Code to regulate the demolition process. Your Honor, that concludes the reading of the consent agenda.
Do I have a motion approving all items on the consent agenda?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, would you roll call vote, please?
Lucas? Howden? Cooper Denham LeBlanc?
Yes.
Schultz?
Yes.
The results of the vote is 4-0, motion carries. Your Honor, the next item is the final reading of Bill number 6528, an ordinance of the Board of Aldermen of Branson, Missouri, approving the extension of the term of the historic downtown Branson Community Improvement District. This item was postponed during the March 25th, 2025 regular meeting. During that meeting, it had a motion and second to approve on its final reading. It is now ready for additional discussion.
We'll begin with a staff report from Solon.
All right. So we received notification from the Downtown CID's counsel, their attorney, that they were going to actually withdraw their request to extend the CID so that they could have more time to discuss potentially expanding the CID or just really the best steps going forward for the CID. They also presented to us a resolution repealing their prior request to the city, and so for those reasons, we are presenting this action before the board to postpone indefinitely this bill that was read once. That's pretty much it.
Do I have a motion postponing Bill number 6528 indefinitely?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to postpone indefinitely. Any member of the board wishing to speak regarding this matter? Glenn?
Yes, so this doesn't affect the $200,000 that they just agreed to pay towards streetscape, right? This is strictly related to their renewal as a CID.
That's correct. The action that they took to give the $200,000 is still in effect, and they're still willing and wanting to do that.
So reading through their documentation that they sent us, it sounds like the request from the city for financial support going forward was what triggered this action?
Well, as you may recall from one of their board meetings in which several staff members and yourself, Alderman Schultz, were present, during that meeting, we discussed with the CID potential opportunities that they could have in the community, particularly downtown, to help with blighted properties, and some of the board members did not realize, it appeared, to me at least, that some of the board members did not realize that it was possible that the board could actually do some of the things that we were kind of giving them a broader vision of. And at that time, they just kind of left it at that. But then subsequently, after talking with their counsel, and also I believe their counsel sent me an email saying that they wanted to have a public meeting to discuss further the potential of expanding the vision of the downtown CID. Right now, the downtown CID petition restricts the funds to transportation-related funds, and so you kind of have to get creative about what is transportation-related. And so in order to allow them to have more flexibility with the funds they're collecting to do things that are really beyond that, they would have to consider either amending their petition or starting a new CID and letting this one expire. That's up to them. That's their prerogative at this point as a board to decide. And so this just allows them, them repealing that resolution gives them more time to kind of get their ducks in a row. Now, the letter that their counsel sent me also indicated that they wanted to have a public meeting with downtown business owners and property owners. And so, again, they're just wanting to explore things more, is my understanding.
So if they have that meeting, and because it sounded like they were essentially trying to decide, should they expand the scope to be responsive to the city's request? So if they have that meeting and they decide not to expand their scope, where does that leave us as a city with regard to renewing their CID?
Well, I mean, of course, it's up to the city on whether or not they do that, or whether or not they create a different CID that can accomplish, things that are in line with the city's values and objectives going forward. And so I don't want to, throw any hypotheticals out there. I think we just let them decide. And but ultimately, yeah, if it's not renewed before 2026, then the CID will, assuming they have no liabilities, cease to exist.
Yeah, I understand that consequence. I'm more down the path of they have this public meeting and the decision is that they want to stay focused on their trolley activity, essentially. Where does that leave us in terms of our decision to renew the CID if they come back with a request like they have in place now?
That's not my place to say. That's really a board decision that would be decided by all the members of the, majority of the board. So certainly that's a discussion that should be had because I personally think that the CID is, probably provides value to the city. I mean, they have the opportunity to do great things down there. And so, that's ultimately something the board as a whole collectively needs to decide.
Yeah, I think they've done a lot for the city. That's evident. They've paid for the Albury bathroom, a good part of the Albury bathroom work. They do the landscaping downtown work. They underwrite that and a number of other projects. So I would just hate for this to see this go south in this process.
And just to be clear, I don't think anyone from the city nor the CID is really in favor of a CID not existing at all, from what I've been able to gather. But again, that's not my position to state. The city speaks through the board in unison as a board, and so I follow suit and take directives as I'm told. So,
Glenn, my understanding also is, as you know, over the years, the downtown CID has, like you said, they paid, I believe, half for that restroom, but they've also paid money for landscaping. They've paid money for Christmas lights. They've paid money on things that don't technically fall under transportation. And I think they had to get a little bit creative of how to spend money on Christmas lights under their current restrictions. So
Yeah, I'm really not questioning, this issue of whether they have to be creative or whether it's in their scope. I'm really just looking at the process that they've laid out, which is, they're approaching the businesses and the citizens with essentially the question, should we go beyond trolleys, which as you point out, they have, but they're asking that question. And so I see two scenarios coming out of that discussion. Essentially, one is that they say, yes, the citizens say, yes, we'd like you to go beyond trolleys. Then I would presume they're either going to have to be creative or come back with an amended petition for the CID. The one that concerns me more, though, however, is if they come back and say, no, people just really want us to focus on the trolley, which kind of puts us back to where we are. And I assume at that point they'd put a motion or they'd request that we renew the CID as it exists today. And I just want to make sure there's a path forward from that based on our actions here today.
yeah, we're following their request from their legal counsel. And we'll address, because we don't know what they're going to come back with, and we'll address it at the time.
and to follow up with that, I also, we don't want to put this off to the last minute, and I emailed their legal counsel as recent as today, and asked him to make sure that the city is included in the discussions so that we, can be prepared to act expeditiously.
Yeah, I think what I'd ask, and I don't know the opinion of the other aldermen, but just from my perspective is that when we get to that point, personally, I'd like us to see us do a term sheet like we do with other CIDs where the aldermen can get together in advance and say, these are the things we're agreeing to from a terms perspective, the things that we'd like to see on it, and then take that to the CID.
Well, we don't know, right now the ball's in their court.
I understand. When they come back with whatever their decision is.
yeah, we'll discuss it
that
then.
we have a term sheet that the aldermen work
Okay.
on in order to handle those negotiations with the CID.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the audience? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you provide a roll call vote, please?
Lucas? Yes. Howden?
Yes.
LeBlanc?
Yes.
Schultz?
Yes.
The result of the vote is 4-0, motion carries.
Thank you, Solon.
Your Honor, this is the final reading of Bill Number 6547, an ordinance approving a plan for an industrial development project for the Butterfly Palace Expansion Project, authorizing the city to engage bond counsel for the issuance of industrial revenue bonds, and authorizing all other actions necessary to issue bonds. This is what was pulled off of the consent agenda.
Thank you. So you've heard the final reading of Bill Number 6547. Do I have a motion approving this bill?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. We'll now have a staff report from Lindsay.
Hi, Lindsay. Hi, so I just wanted to clarify, this is an ordinance that we are seeking a postponement indefinitely. This was the Chapter 100 plan that was presented to you 2 weeks ago. After that meeting, we received some notification that some of the mathematics in the cost-benefit analysis were incorrect. So that plan it has been withdrawn and a new plan has been amended and submitted to the Board of Aldermen. But this bill here, we would seek an indefinite postponement.
Okay. Any members of the board wishing to speak to this matter? Any audience member? Hearing none, I need Alderman.
Your Honor, I move to postpone this item indefinitely.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, could we get a roll call, please?
Lucas? Howden? Yes. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Schultz?
Yes.
The result of the vote is 4-0, motion carries. Your Honor, the next item is a resolution of the Board of Aldermen consenting to the mayor's appointments to the Board of Directors of the Butterfly Palace Community Improvement District.
Do I have a motion adopting this resolution?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. We'll hear from Lindsay.
Sure, so this is just a short resolution. It is related to the Butterfly Palace Community Improvement District that you just approved and established. It would appoint Kathy Stepp and Alex Gerard from the city administrative offices to the CID Board of Directors, and they would serve for 2-year terms.
Any questions from the board? Questions from the audience? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it.
Your Honor, the next item is an update from State Representative Brian Seitz.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, I am State Representative Brian Seitz. I've been there and back again. It's good to be home. And so I appreciate this opportunity to speak. One of the things I want to open with before I talk about what I've done in the Capitol for the past few months is the fact that I visited some of the downtown businesses the other day. I'm really appreciative of the speed in which the workers are down there. I just saw them in the rain, continuing to work. They're working overnight to get things done safely and as quickly as possible. But I do encourage, and I know you've done that from the city and from the board, I do encourage the citizens of Branson to visit the downtown area. Valerie and I went to the Walking Taco the other day, and I had the best taco mix that I've ever had, and they're not paying me to promote them, but you get to pick from about 25 different items and so forth and build your own walking taco. So I built mine to the point where every single bite bite that I took was something that I liked. And I've never had that in any other restaurant. And so I encourage people to go down there. Valerie bought some sort of bubble drink at one of those bubble stores. I don't know what that is, but it was very tasty. And we're encouraging Branson citizens, and we're going to do this every week. Money we might have spent at Walmart or one of the other chains, we're going to spend in downtown Branson. So I encourage all citizens to go ahead and do that. So I appreciate the board and I appreciate the mayor and the speed of which things are going, and yet it's being safe down there. I know it's difficult for the businesses, so let's us as a community get down there and spend some of our dollars in the downtown area.
Exactly, and Representative Seitz, I'd like
Yes.
to thank you for helping our downtown businesses.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tomorrow I can't have breakfast, but we plan on heading to the farmhouse for breakfast, and then to be fair, we'll head over to the Branson Cafe soon afterwards. So I'm going to get a little bit chubby spending all my money downtown. 2 weeks ago, and again, before I get on the legislative update, I spent some time with Lieutenant Governor Wassinger, David Wassinger. He's a very good friend of mine. We toured the Sight and Sound Theater backstage, and he had done some things at Big Cedar just prior, and he was in Springfield, but I'm trying to work as much as possible, bringing state officials down to this area to see what Branson has to offer. We are 22% of the tourism dollars collected through taxation that go to the state. Branson is 22% of that income for the state. So we are an economic driver, and I want our state officials to know that. Tomorrow I'll meet Congressman Eric Burleson. He's the Batman to my Superman. And we're going to meet at the chamber at 9:30 and spend most of the day touring Branson businesses and so forth. And I hope to get him to the downtown area if his schedule allows. So I really want to emphasize Branson as a destination, and I know quite a few representatives and senators have already been down here for the past weekend, and they will continue to advocate in the State House for our area. So talking about some of the things that I did in the State House, I passed the biggest piece of legislation this year, which was House Joint Resolution 73. That's the repeal of Amendment 3. It is a pro-life piece of legislation that was passed on the Senate's last day. They used a procedure called the PQ to pass that legislation. The PQ balances out the filibuster that's in the Senate. A filibuster can be had by members of either party, and the PQ stops the debate so that we can pass good legislation that might involve a possible filibuster. HJR 73 provides protections for women, safety measures that were removed, specifically dealing with the abortive procedure, safety features that were removed. I'm going to replace those. HJR 73 is going to replace those. It also protects children from transgender surgeries and or hormonal drugs to supposedly take a young boy and turn him into a girl or a girl into a boy. I think that's an abomination. And what this HJR 73 does is protects children, letting them mature up until the age of 18, where they have the cognitive ability to make these life-altering decisions for themselves. Let kids be kids, and HJR 73 does that. It also protects the infant in the womb, but I've allowed for the exceptions of life of the mother, fetal anomalies, and or rape and incest. To me, and I think as a Christian, and I think most people would agree, life begins at conception, period. You're a human being upon conception. You are a person that should be protected. But because of Amendment 3, we have to do something that the most voters would agree with. And I think those that voted for Amendment 3 were voting for the issues of rape and incest. Horrible crimes that I don't know how a person deals with them physically and or mentally. So I allowed those exceptions to stay in the legislation. They account for less than 1% of abortions done in the state of Missouri. So we are going to protect life, and HJR 73, once it's signed by the governor, will be on the ballot in November of 2026. So that's something that I passed this session. I also passed in that vein the Born Alive Protection Act. It made it through the House. It died in the Senate, as sometimes good legislation does. I worked really well with Senator Hudson. Senator Brad Hudson has been a joy to have someone of like mind that I can go to in the Senate to get good legislation passed and or stop bad legislation. So we've worked as a team for the past year, and it's wonderful to do. I'm currently in my third term. The next session will be the second half of my third term. I'll be running for re-election one more time after that, and then I'm term limited. I'll put on the white cowboy hat like Reagan did and probably ride off into the sunset. But the third term is so different than the first two. It's like being on the board of aldermen probably, or city administrator, or mayor. You know, there's some kinks to work out. The first couple of alderman meetings and the decisions that are made. But once you've been there for a while, it's night and day. The access that I have to leadership and so forth, it's no longer requesting, you know, an audience with the king. It's walking in and seeing the king and saying, hey, king, what's up? We need to get this done. And I do that in the State House. So third term, wonderful. I have been appointed the conference chaplain. So that's both for, I'm the Republican conference chaplain. There isn't one on the other side of the aisle. So I see to the spiritual needs of anyone who wants to talk to me, regardless of their political affiliation. At the Capitol, you'll see, especially in social media and so forth, this great divide between Republican and Democrat, and there is that ideological divide, but we do have to work together on numerous pieces of legislation. So I've reached out to the other side of the aisle, and I have just as many friends there as I do on the Republican side, so we can work together to get things done. And we just have to remember that we're all human beings. We have families and businesses and people that love us. So we work together despite the ideological divide. Some of the other pieces of legislation, non-disclosure agreements for adult victims of child sexual abuse will no longer be judicially enforceable in the state of Missouri. That being said, say a young person somewhere had been molested or sexually abused or something like that. Many businesses have been given recently in the past decade or so to having, or 2 decades or more, signing non-disclosure agreements, you know, giving the family a little bit of money and saying, hey, if you guys don't talk about this, we'll kind of, you know, put it under the rug and we'll forget about it, and, you know, we're going to pray for you. That's no longer judicially enforceable as soon as the governor signs that. I added that as an amendment to about 7 Senate bills to make sure it passed, because adult victims of child sexual abuse need to speak out in order to heal. And that lack of ability due to not signing these non-disclosure agreements caused one Trey Carlock to commit suicide as an adult. And one of the last things he mentioned was, I'm not allowed to talk about it. My advocacy for children is very well known, and removing non-disclosure agreements from being judicially enforceable was a highlight of the past legislative session. As the chairman of the Tourism Committee, for 2 months, I worked on an omnibus tourism bill, creating about 40 different pieces of legislation from both sides of the aisle, both the House and Senate, into one big bill. And that passed on the second to the last day of the legislative session in the House, and then it passed on the second to the last day of the Senate. The governor will be signing that, and that legislation includes state statute recognition of Branson as the live entertainment capital of Missouri. Thank you. Thank you. I've worked on that piece of legislation for 3 years. Sometimes it takes a while to even get common sense bills like Branson being the live entertainment capital of Missouri through to the governor's desk. Less than 2% of bills that are filed in January make it to the governor's desk. So I'm very proud to have gotten that done for the city. It doesn't cost the state a dime. And once the governor signs this, any business throughout Branson can use that on their brochures, their advertising. The chamber can use it, the city can use it as a special designation. Entertainment starts with our wonderful local music shows. That's the cherry on top. It used to be the whole ice cream. Now I put it as the cherry on top. But entertainment also includes shopping. My wife will tell you shopping is entertainment. That's why she enjoys doing it. The Lakes region is entertainment. The attractions, the Ferris wheels and the go-karts and the roller coasters and all that, these are part of Branson's entertainment package, and now we can promote that as officially being in state statute. I was appointed to the State Tourism Board. They appoint one Democrat and one Republican, and I'll serve on there for the next 2 years. And should I be reelected, I'll serve on there for my final 2. And so I'll be part of the State Tourism Board. I spoke in favor of the amateur sports tax credit. We have things like the archery tournament done here. NCAA wrestling comes to, I think, Kansas City. Other sports that could go somewhere else, college and high school sports, will continue to come to Missouri. I spoke in favor of that. I passed it again in the tourism committee, but it did not make it to the governor's desk. So there will be a special session, and that's one of the pieces of legislation. Because I know Branson made, I think I heard upwards of $3 million by having 3,500 archers and contestants and so forth here. And we do that with basketball tournaments and other things as well. So I'm going to work on passing that. I spoke on the House floor as far as that bill goes. Let's see, what else did we do? Working with Senator Hudson to get something into the budget during a time period when we are cutting the budget. And once the governor signs it, it will be totally official, but it passed in the House and Senate as part of the budget. Another $4 million for the Highway 76 project. Thank you. Thank you. I think last year we ended up with $6 million. This is for $10 million. How many times we can go to the well and ask for these sort of things, I don't know. But as the representative for the 156th district, working hand in hand with Senator Hudson, we're getting some really big things done that benefit our area, and will save, as far as the 76 project go, could save lives. With new lighting, with new crosswalks and things like that. I watched a family of 5 cross from the Titanic to the Clay Cooper Theater with a German Shepherd and a stroller. Very dangerous type of thing to do, and I think this $4 million coupled with the 6 we got last session is going to be a big help for our area and the safety of our visitors. Let's see, anything else? I worked on legislation dealing with CIDs, and with the help of the state auditor, that passed in committee, and that would allow a different form of calculation and compliance. Because as we know, some of those CIDs, especially for homeowners associations, are just there in name only. They continue to collect money. We're not sure where the money's going. We're not sure if the board even meets or if the people are still alive that created that CID. So I've worked hand in hand with the state auditor's office. Again, that passed overwhelmingly bipartisanly in committee, but the speaker didn't put it, so that it would get to the floor. And these things happen. We're not going to pass 2,000 bills in one session. So, but I did work on that. Let's see, I think that's about it. I did speak and help remove the business killing paid sick leave that was put into our Constitution. I call it, and I call this publicly and I call it this on television, paid vacation. Small businesses cannot afford to give people an extra week off, or to have them, they're supposed to be there at 8 o'clock so you can open the store, and they call in and say, hey, I'm not going to be until 12 today, so you can't open the store. You might have a barber that has 5 chairs there, and 2 of them decide maybe they're legitimately sick, or maybe it's a nice day and they want to play golf. Then the business owner has to pay with no one sitting in the barber chair. They're not making any money, and yet they still have to pay that barber. It was a business killing piece of legislation that never should have been put or tied to a minimum wage increase. So I helped stop that, and that was done the last day in the Senate as well. That's basically what I've got. Are there any questions? I have worked hard. I think I've sacrificed, which I did. I've sacrificed my health and probably took 10 years off my life advocating for this area and fighting in the House of Representatives. But that's what I do. That's what I told the voters I'd do, and that's what I do. Any questions, comments, Mr. Mayor?
You do look much grayer.
I'm going for the Moses look. Moses was the deliverer. I want to deliver good legislation. So yeah, I'm grayer on the inside too.
We couldn't be more proud of what
Thank
you're
you.
doing. That directly affects our residents and our businesses here in Branson.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and so I'm going to open it up for the board.
Brian, I just want to say thank you for all you're doing, for your support for the entertainment in this area, but
Absolutely.
for live music shows, and for specifically mentioning that. You have a long history
Sure.
of being involved in that industry, and it's so important, as well as we sort of look to the future of an important tourism sector, which is sports.
Yes.
So thank you for being involved in that, as well as your work to protect women's sports. I just appreciate that immensely.
Sure.
So.
Thank you very much.
Artie?
Will the CID bill be coming back up in the next session?
Yeah, I'll refile that on December 1st, and I won't have some of the big statewide pieces of legislation that have already went through, so I think they're going to allow me to present some of these bills that affect us more locally as well, though CIDs have been taken advantage of by many, including in this area. Working with the state auditor's office, he's going to create another column of compliance, not necessarily enforcement, but you'll have to have a certain percentage of compliance with what the state is asking. I think it's up to 80%, or your CID is going to go away. And I think this will allow for more transparency. So yes, I'll refile that on December 1st, and we should get it to the governor's desk next year.
Glenn?
Yeah, just congratulations again on a great year, Brian. It was
Thank you.
really something. It was fun to watch you. It really was throughout the year.
Thank you.
Your appointment to the State Tourism Commission,
Yes.
obviously that gives you broader capabilities to promote Branson and.
Right.
Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I think what I can do as now continue being the chair of the Tourism Committee is highlight our area, but on the State Tourism Commission, I can highlight the whole state. Of course, Branson's going to be foremost because that's where I'm from, and that's who the voters elected. They elected me to advocate for this area. But this will give me an even bigger platform to promote tourism in the whole state. And of course, I would advocate for them coming down to Southwest Missouri, enjoying what we have to offer here. So this gives me a greater bully pulpit, and I thank the speaker for putting me on this board. It's a great honor, and I think I'll do us justice here in Southwest Missouri. Thank you.
Ralph?
Yeah, Brian, thank you. As everyone said, thank you for all that you do represent us, and thank you for the steadfastness that you've shown in your values and your virtues. That's, if anything that shines through, it's definitely that. And in a particular point, something you said tonight, I know in the past you've been a little bit criticized of not representing everyone, but tonight, the things that I heard from you, you really have taken a broad stroke and are representing the people. Doesn't
Sure.
matter party line. You are representing the people, and they should take note of that and honor that, because you definitely do that every single day that you're up there. Thank
It's
you so much.
extremely important that my voice represents 37,000 people, not just one party, not just the other. Of course, I'm going to lean to the right because that's where I am, and that's where Branson and Hollister and our areas are as well. But I think to be that advocate for all people is something that's proper for a representative in the House of Representatives to do.
That was pleasing to hear that tonight, and I applaud you for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone in the audience? Yes, Bobby.
After working in childcare since 1985, working with children and families, you have to remember a lot of our folks who work here don't get that paid time off. So if they have a sick kid, you know what they do? They pump them full of some sort of medicine, you know, maybe some Advil, Tylenol, whatever.
Right.
Send them off to us. All of a sudden, by lunch, they have 102 fever. Is that fair to that kid? But the mom or dad has to work if they want to eat or drive or do anything else. And so there's that whole push and pull of that whole
Sure.
system.
Yeah, there's definitely that balance, and that's something that we looked at. And I would encourage businesses, if they can afford it, to offer these incentives to their employees. But I don't think it's fair. Look at a theater of 100 employees, for example. If everyone gets that 1 week off, then that theater owner is going to have to fire 2 or 3 people to pay for everyone else to have that week off. So is that an economic benefit? Because you don't get the benefit if you don't have a job. So of course, I think we learned this during the quote pandemic. If you're sick, stay home. And I think a good employer, if you're a good employee, they're going to say, yes, we can cover your shift. But to have the state dictate through our Constitution that a business owner has to do this or that or give paid time off, I think is a little bit of a government overreach, and we should allow businesses to make that decision. And if you're a prospective employee and you're looking for that benefit, then you would gravitate towards those jobs.
And I
that,
have.
Yes, and I've done. Well, I guess not. My wife has worked as a nurse, so that's allowed us some insurance over the years and so forth. But I've never had any paid time off in the 20 years I've worked my secular job here in Branson, Missouri. It would have came in handy a few times, but we understand the economic benefit for the individual having that opportunity to stay home with a sick child and so forth. But to force businesses to do that, it's very painful economically.
Here's the other thing.
Sure.
That kid then gets everybody sick, including the teacher. So here we are running around trying to get coverage for those classrooms so the other parents who do stay home and keep their kids home.
Sure. Yeah, it's
So
difficult to raise a
really-
family.
It's the hamster in the wheel.
Yep, it's difficult. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. Anybody else in the audience have any questions? Hearing none. Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Appreciate you very much.
It's good to be home. Thank you.
Your Honor, this is the first reading of Bill Number 6551, an ordinance repealing Ordinance Number 2025-0020 and approving a municipal electric service agreement with the Empire District Electric Company, DBA Liberty, and authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement.
You've heard the first reading of Bill 6551. I have a motion approving this bill.
Second.
Motion and a second, and a staff report from Solon.
This is just a bill to approve agreement that for municipal electric services for lighting and the repair of lighting facilities throughout the city. That basically sums it up.
And replacing light bulbs. Any members of the board have any questions or comments? Anybody in the audience? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it.
Your Honor, this is the first reading of Bill Number 6552, an ordinance approving an agreement for engineering services and other preparatory work with the Empire District Electric Company, DBA Liberty, relocation cost of telecommunication facilities relating to the West 76 Country Boulevard, Segment 1 and 2 construction project, replacing the utility agreement with Liberty approved by Ordinance Number 2025-0021 and authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement.
You've heard the first reading of Bill 6552. Do I have a motion approving this bill?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second, and staff report from Solon.
Similar, this is also a Liberty Utilities agreement, and this one particularly deals with the 76 improvements that were in the works right now. Essentially just paying to assist in the relocation of the lines that are going to be required in order to do that project.
Any member of the board have any questions? Anybody in the audience? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Thank you, Solon.
Your Honor, this is the first reading of Bill Number 6553, an ordinance amending Section 2-28 of the Branson Municipal Code pertaining to administrative and supervisory committees.
You've heard the first reading of Bill 6553. Do I have a motion approving this bill?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second, and with staff report from Hillary herself.
So at the last meeting, it was requested that we establish a specific number of citizen appointees on the Finance Committee or our administrative committees, and this is that ordinance.
So for years, every year when we appoint individuals to committees, the question has always come up since I've been elected, okay, before you choose the people, how many people do you want on finance? Well, we don't ask that question on any other committee. It's a set number on all the committees. And so instead of every year having a debate on how many do we want to have a finance committee, I thought it would be appropriate for the board to discuss it, come up with a number, and just have that in code as we have restrictions on all the others. And we came up with a magic number of 3. I believe it's been 3 for as long as I can remember. So just trying to remove that element as we're appointing members to committees. Glenn?
I was just going to say, I think it's just practical. Let's get it done.
Thank you. Anybody in the audience? Any other board members have any questions? So let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. We are to the report section, and we'll start with Alderman Lucas.
Nothing tonight.
Alderman Howden.
Mr. Mayor, I was excited to see Representative Brian Seitz come down tonight. I was also excited to see his son Daniel Seitz, who is the chief of staff of Senator Hudson, which was mentioned. There was a picture a few weeks ago that was posted of the 3 of them at the lectern in the Senate chambers, and it just reminded me how blessed we are to have that great representation. To address one thing that was mentioned in the audience tonight, Representative Seitz did vote for the child tax care credit, which assists with some of our, child care needs as well. And then one last thing, last meeting we appointed Daniel to our Planning and Zoning Commission. And I said this last year, Mr. Mayor, Director Torgy, and I'll say it again. I feel like the decisions that you've made to put people forward on the slates have been tremendous. We continue to kind of shape those boards in the image of this board when it comes to transparency, being pro-business and being pro-growth, which is one of our big missions up here. So it's just really thrilling to see those come together and have the representation that we do. So,
Thank you, Marshall. Ralph?
Yeah, I really wasn't going to say anything, but with Marshall saying that, I got to tell you, it just kind of goes kind of a step up, even just top down. From Kathy, our city administrator, our city clerk, our attorney, and then all of the staff below. I think the level of continuity that we've created in City Hall is really, really good and firing on multiple cylinders. So what all that means is our ability to do the city's work has just become more and more efficient. A lot of times we just got to get out of the way and just, let it happen. And boy, when we do, the things we can make happen. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
That's so true. Glenn?
Yeah, just 2 quick things this evening. I was at a Rotary lunch, and I had one of the Rotary members come up to me and say, hey, please pass along to your city staff what a great job they're doing on the roads. So apparently his road in front of his place had just gotten redone, and he was super happy. But it's always nice to hear somebody just pause and say thanks for things that I know kind of get done ordinarily. So thank you to Michael and team for that good work. And also, always up walking around downtown, probably up there once every day or every other day. And I really took note as to how fast things were coming together on the sidewalks up there. Even laying in the brick in the cutouts in there was getting done. But what I thought was a really nice touch going into the holiday weekend was they knew they weren't going to get all of the sidewalk in. So they put in some cold rolled up by the west end of the south side of Main Street so that they didn't have to deal with those mats and potholes and everything else that was there. So great idea. So thanks to Michael and his team, Director Woods and his team for going that extra mile. I'm sure that made the merchants happy. Too bad the weather didn't cooperate for the kickoff weekend, but I'm sure right after this weekend it'll start to pick up for sure. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy? Just a few quick things. We did last week, we celebrated our public works and our utilities. It was National Public Work Week, and I think we snuck utilities in with them. So we had a appreciation luncheon for everybody at Golden Corral. It was well attended. They all appreciated it. They sure eat a lot, so Golden Corral was a great choice. But we do, obviously, and I won't go into my speech there, but you know how much you guys are appreciated. They are truly unsung heroes within our city. Bobby, thank you for coming and giving us these gifts. It was a real treat going to that. Like you said, we had the fire, police, recon was out there. Kids truly enjoyed that. That was fun to interact with them. Last Friday night, we had our first annual Rally Point Branson. It was at the convention center. I'm going to tell you, it was a heck of a production give all the credit to Pam and Heather. But there was bouncy houses for the kids. There was painting for the kids. They had these lit up little something for the kids. They were all dancing, had live music, some vendor stations for the veterans to attend. The food was great, hamburgers and hot dogs. So Angie at the convention center really did a great job. And looking forward to that expanding as these years come on. Other than that, I have nothing else, so without further ado, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. We're done. Thank you.